All major banks are insolvent. The larger the bank, the more insolvent they are. Also, the larger they are, the more control they have, the more political influence, and ultimately, the more power they wield over the global financial system. When bankers sit inside of every high position of government, they can manipulate and bend the laws and regulations in their favor. And there's no surprise that they do. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's talk about how insolvent these banks are, beginning with this article out of the Financial Times. 3 of the biggest U.S. banks have been judged to pose greater systemic risks than last year and had their capital requirements increased by global regulators in their annual rankings of the most systemically important financial institutions. And what we're talking about is Citigroup, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. They all had their capital buffers increased by several $1 billion. That's right. So here they are trying to prevent another crisis from occurring. So they do stress tests regularly, and they have these requirements which need to be put in place. And that says, look, at any moment, there could be a crisis, so you need to be prepared. And in order to do that, you can't give away all of the money that you have. You need to keep a certain percentage. And over the years, that number has dwindled from 100% and has gone down to essentially 0. And nobody really believes this in the mainstream or individuals that you'll talk to. Some do believe that they probably don't have all the money that they need because they know that people are not going to pull out their money all at once. Most of the people, they keep their money in the bank. They're not all going to have a bank run. They don't know that's even possible. So what happens is you have bankers who are willing to do a little bit of interesting accounting. And this will allow them to stretch and bend and mold their profits. And this is called fractional reserve banking. It's an initial strategy that they use to profit off of what they had on hand. So you can loan out more money than you actually have. Meanwhile, HSBC, Barclays, and Morgan Stanley were all judged to be less systemically risky and had the size of the capital buffer they must hold reduced. Now think of that for a second here. All of them, every single one, are insolvent. We know that. That's a fact. And you look at this because this is just a chart showing you this. Look at any of these when they essentially have to hold 0, close to 0 if you round it, in the amount of currency that they hold. They don't have a buffer. They talk about, these corporations need to keep a buffer just in case. Well, they don't have one. It's no different than the FDIC trying to have deposit insurance for the massive amounts of cash that are kept in the banking system. And then you actually look at how much they have, and it is essentially around the same amount. They couldn't bail out even one single bank failure should it be a relatively large bank. This has all been a perfect storm, just waiting to happen. The banks judged to be systemically important have to hold a special buffer of debt that can be, here we go, bailed in, known as the total loss absorbency capacity, or TLAC, in an attempt to prevent taxpayer bailouts suffered during the financial crisis. So bailouts are bad, bail-ins are good. And I had to show you that little part there just because the bail-ins are coming. And it isn't what they create a quote-unquote special buffer. If they had these special buffers in place prior, they would have used them. But no, they didn't do so. and you have major catastrophes that have been avoided, and you have major institutions which did go under, that actually did occur. So understand the fact that we are currently in the financial crisis part 2. Despite what the stock market is showing, we can see that the banking system, which could never be bailed out, it could not be bailed in, and yet every single day it puts itself into a more dangerous position, and that effectively puts you and I into that same position. And it doesn't matter what country you come from, because they are all in the exact same boat. Protests flare over Venezuela, cash chaos, 3 deaths reported. This seems to be a growing epidemic here, that individuals are suffering in Venezuela. The poverty is increasing. There are lineups for just about everything. And the black market, which has developed, is booming. And this doesn't surprise me at all. Venezuela protests over worthless cash. Scattered looting as population is stuck with a voided 100 Bolivar note. Again, all connected in with this, and we see it to be a problem not just in Venezuela, but now spreading around the world. Thinking that you can manipulate the currency in any way, whether that's expanding the money supply or whether that is calling in cash, like what's happening in India. Thinking that this could ever solve a problem is clearly the wrong way to go. Russia is deploying short-range ballistic missiles to its Western European enclave, and is talking about countermeasures. Now, we don't know what to believe on either side of wars. What I would say is that it is very clear that there is a proxy war taking place in different areas, like in Ukraine. We've seen the data talking about in Syria as well. And it's so close to getting there, to come to World War III, and I don't know how exactly it's been avoided this far, but I do believe that it is a great thing to hear that the chances of Russia and the US having better relations, that is such a good thing to hear, no doubt. This here just basically talking about the advancement of the military and the weaponry that are going on the border there, and it seems to be from both sides. Once again, we don't know what to believe, but this here, if it is true, it is truly frightening. Cyber criminals have remotely attacked cash machines in more than a dozen countries across Europe this year. Check this out. They use malicious software that forces machines to spit out the cash. Now, that's in itself interesting. However, what concerns me is that individuals, they put their money into the bank. Now, what I have seen in multiple cases, covered it here on the channel, of course, is that the banks, sometimes they have a quote-unquote glitch, which leaves people with $0 in their bank. There are also cases where people cannot access their money for whatever reason. This is a big problem, because what if in the future they do this quote-unquote by accident, and it leaves you without your money? What are you going to do if you need that? It's an emergency. What if they decide to devalue the currency during the time that you have been unable to get your savings? It's a very dangerous thing, and that's why I do not believe in the banking system. It is not safe at all. Now, this has happened multiple times before, but I wanted to bring this to you. It's a more recent sighting. Military plane circles low over Manhattan, prompts brief, widespread confusion. So it's going, this military plane driving around and around. People are taking pictures of it. There are videos of it. Nobody knows anything. People are making phone calls trying to figure out what exactly is going on. They're getting scared. And it's not high up in the sky. I mean, this thing was very low to the ground, and it was freaking people out. And instead of just telling people in advance, making a notice somewhere so that when people start asking questions, it was able to be found out. No, this was found out quite afterwards, and it seemed to be a very, nonchalant thing where the government said, we were just conducting business. Shut up. And that's what worries me. The military is constantly doing these operations in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, freaking people out. And one day, it's not going to be a drill. It's going to be for real. And last but not least, Lowe's unveils Lowebot, the bilingual robot. And this right here is, once again, what I was thinking is this type of thing would replace those Walmart greeters. They could do a lot of the simple tasks that people are currently doing right now. Maybe you need directions to one part of the store. Maybe you want to return an item, where this thing could direct you in the right way, and they would be much more efficient in doing so. They could walk you to the destination. If you're looking for something, they could bring you right to that aisle, perhaps help you with the checkout. You could probably check out at this machine, I'm not sure. And this here, once again, robotics and automation replacing jobs. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. If you found the video informative, then you will definitely find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. So go over to Amazon, where they have a look inside feature, which allows you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care. Well, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm signing off. I'm going to post the video and hit the hay.